Okay, start recording.
All right. And I just need to hit continue here. And there we go. Okay. So thank you guys, everyone, for joining tonight. We're doing a spin on a class that we did last October. So if you guys remember last October, we did some earrings. And they're these little Starflower mandalas. That was the name I gave them because it looks like a star inside of a little flower petal. And so it's a really fun design. And during that class, some great ideas about how to connect them were shared in the chat. And so we played with the idea and we came up with a way to integrate the stars together and then decided to do this class just in time for spring. And I wanted to share also that it can be a bracelet. This is an asymmetrical bracelet that I created just today, just to kind of warm up with the stitch. And you can also make it a pendant if you like. A little pendant necklace. You can throw it on some chain. So sky's the limit with ideas. I am going to cover making the flower just like we did in the original class, but in order to be able to cover everything, my plan is to do the flower one time, go very slowly through creating the flower, and then I have pre-made a set so I can show assembling. And then I'm hoping to cover the addition of the chain and finishing it really fast. Okay, and so I'm going to move over here to yeah, there we go. Thank you. And so here's an up-close video, an up-close image of the necklace itself. I'm just going to adjust this really quick. There's some light. Focus right. Okay, yeah, there we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, so how this is made. What you start with is you create a little star. And this one's already put together. Let me grab this one. And in the earring class, we would take it from this point and put a little ear wire connector onto it. We're going to skip that step. In this class, we're just going to create the star and then create 4 more that can be attached to it. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started, show you the materials really quick. Any colors you like can be used. You can make this in any combination that appeals to you. I'm going to be using size 6 and size 11 seed beads. You can also use 10s if you prefer. I've tried 10 and 11 and they both work really great. The 8s you'll need at the end for doing the chain, but for the star part, you only need to have size 6 and size 11 seed beads. For your beading needles, size 10 beading needles, those will work great. The thread today is the Wildfire 0.006, and I'll be using some scissors to cut, pulling in some flat nose pliers to help me thread my needle. And then at the end, we're going to need a wire guardian, and any clasp will work, any clasp of your choice. I'm going to show putting the wire guardians on and then let you guys, figure out what clasp you like from there. Okay, so each of the flowers, you're going to need 36 inches of thread to make them, roughly. And for me, that's about a little less than a double wingspan, so I usually just kind of use my arms to measure. And threading the needle here. So what I'm doing here is just flattening it, which helps it go through the needle. Size 10 beading needle. There we go. Pull it down about 7 to 10 inches, fold it over. And then you're going to need the size 11s and the size 6s. And so I'm just using this bright yellow today. Okay, so the first step is to string alternately a 6 and an 11, 6 and 11, until you have put 5 size 6 seed beads on your needle. and 5 11s. So that's my 4th, 5th, and the 11th. So just like that. And move that out of the way just a little bit. And leave enough tail that, you know, it'll be easy to weave in, but we don't need to leave much of a tail. So about 7 inches or so. Because we're not doing that little connection that was done in the earring, less tail is needed on this than in the original, you know, earring design that we did. So I'm going to go through all these beads again. I missed that last one there. And then come back through. I'll go through as many as I can go through here. And so you should start to see a ring forming. And I'm going around one more time to tighten it up so it doesn't move when I'm working. This step is optional, but I think it helps a lot with stabilizing the beads while you work. Just going through one more. Okay. And so this next step is going to be done twice. We create a ring of 5 size 11s around each of these 6s. And then we come back and do that again to add a second layer. And also, so I'll show you what that looks like. Here's 5 size 11 beads. And so this is the exiting working thread. This was that tail going this way, so that those 11s will hug the size 6 seed bead, just like that. And I'm going to do that around every one of these 6s. Oops. My thread is long and it's catching on my keyboard tray. I'm going to close that really quick. There we go. Okay, so there's 5 more going around the 6. And see, I'm passing through that next size 11, going through the next 6. So it looks like a little petal kind of. Go around the next one. Now I'm going through the 11 and the 6 here. Okay. My kids are singing. It's one of those days. Let's see. Okay. And then there's 5 more. Okay, so I'm going through the next 11 and the next 6, and you'll see this is the last one that doesn't have that little petal ring of 5 beads around it. And so what I'm doing here is adding the last one. There's one more set. Five. I've miscounted a couple times making a lot of these lately, so I always check because it's actually 5 there. Okay, so 5 beads were added around all of these 6s. I'm going to go through. This is the 11 and the 6 that's next in the ring there. And we're going to do that all over again, putting another layer on top. And this has, it serves 2 purposes. One is that it centers the size 6 beads we're going to add in the next step. It centers them on the edge. It also stabilizes this, you know, shape so that it doesn't fold on itself. So I tried it without this extra layer, and it would, you know, the star would bend. So here's what we've done. We've just added those 5 more, and see how they form kind of a little pocket now on the side. So our size 6 seed beads have somewhere to sit, makes them really stable. And that's what we're doing. We're just putting a layer of 5 on top of this one in the same way we put the first one there. So I'm going to travel through the 11 and then through the 6 here. There we go. Okay, 5 more. That's 4. There's 5. All right, there's 5 more. And going through the next one. And there's 5. And so this pattern, when I was playing around and coming up with, different stitches that would work for, I was looking for something that repeated, and the name of giving it the name mandala is exactly, what it is. It's a series of shapes that are repeated around in a circle, and then you layer and layer and layer on top of it. And so that's kind of how this started. And it reminds me of a question that I had, our friend Pat, if you're out there, this is your question. You had asked if we could make a bigger version of this, or if it would be possible to expand on this version by adding layers. And I think the answer to that is yes on both counts. It just depends on your preference. If you want to start from a tiny point and weave out, you could repeat these steps that we're doing on the next sets of 6s that are added at the end. Alternatively, you could start with, instead of 5 in the ring, start with 7. If you need an odd count, to have a center point or to be suspended from like a pendant, you could also try an even number, and it would be, make a bracelet better. I'll show you guys what I mean by that. I'm at the last one. So there's a set of 5 rings around 2 times. And so that's how that shape is made. Okay, so for the next set, we're going to step up. And so in a lot of stitches, especially round bead weaving stitches, you have a point where you need to step up to your next ring or row. And that's what we're doing here. Our step up on this design looks like this. You'll be exiting from a size 6. And you want to come up through these 11s. Come up through the ones that are on the one you're exiting. And go through 3. So that you'll be at a point here. So that you notice each of these 5s, that fit a third one in, it becomes the point of the star going around. So you can see this next step is going to pull that up into a point. So I'm going to bring down these size 6 seed beads and go through the next point. So for now, I'm just adding 3 6s. I'm going to do that on the third 11 all the way around. I'm just working on that top layer, because remember we have 2 layers. I'm working out of the top layer right now. Okay. And here's the next one. It can be hard to see. I often count to note that it's the 5th one. So 3rd one of the 5. So it'll be this one this time. That I've had to pull a couple out because I was going fast and I didn't see that I'd gone into like the 2nd bead, or it'll become super noticeable once you tighten it. So there's that one. Okay. And the last set here of 3. So 1, 2, and this one I have my starting points exiting from it, so it's marked for me. Okay. So there's 1 round. Next thing I want to do is, well, 2 things. I want to embellish and tighten up these, size 6s. So to do that, I'm going to put an 11 in between each one. And as I move from segment to segment, I'm going to pick up the point on the layer behind us. So this was the layer we did first. So here's what that looks like. I'm exiting from that, the last, 3rd bead or point, going through the next 6. I'm going to pick up a size 11, go through the next 6. And this is where I need to flip it over so I can see the next point here. So these are those ones that are still loose at the back. I'm picking up the 3rd one. Oh, and sorry, I need to do one more 11 and through the next one. Sorry about that. Now finding that point. There we go. So I'm going to do that again. Go through the next size 6 and pick up 111, go through the next 6, pick up 111, next size 6 bead, and then I'm going to find that 3rd one. Here's 1, 2, and there's the 3rd. And just repeating all around. Okay, 3rd one. And go through the 6. And so that's all you got to do. Now, for attaching them, I'm going to get to this other side and then show you guys a finished one and another one that's brought up to right to where you add the last 6. So I'm going to bring out the sample again too. I'm just going around really quick, connecting.
Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
Do me a favor, just before you finish this last bead, will you just show a side view?
Oh, yeah.
So that you're seeing that there's 2 sides.
Yeah, so the 11s we're going through, see they both go through that 6 on either side, so it pulls each of those star points on the front and the back up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I'm at that spot where I'm at the last little point here. I'm gonna find it, 3rd bead, and then go through the 6. And so that's 1 star. And at this point, we could finish this one by weaving in the tails. And to weave it in, you can just go around and you can either just follow the thread path for a while, or you can tie 1/2 hitch knots after the 11s, go through the 6, tie another one. That way the knot is less likely to slide through an 11. But that's it's up to you if you want to weave it in that way. I can show you what that looks like really quick. But it's a little bit you know, better to actually weave it all the way in a couple times. But this certainly works, and you're going to be making a lot of them. So if this is a preferred way, this is what a 1/2 hitch knot looks like. I went through, under, and then this to see the knot's going to sit right in front of that 11. And it's so thick, it's not going to slide back through it. So just a little shortcut. And I think in this design, it's okay. I went through the 6, the next 11. I'm bringing my needle underneath it, pulling a loop, coming up through the loop. That's a 1/2 hitch knot. Go through these 6, maybe through another few beads, I don't know. And then you can just trim it. Which one was that? That was this one. So to trim it, if you're using scissors, just push down with your scissors and pull up. Give it some tension. And so that's the first star. So you've got this one. And the next step would be to repeat all these steps again, but then you would need to stop at a certain point. And let me show you what that point is. Okay, so there's the finished star, and now I want it to look like, I'll show you the sample. I want it to form like a ring, right? So each of the connections will form a circular shape. So in order to do that, the first one, it doesn't matter which one you attach to because it's going to be the same on any side. But this segment, I'm about to add that next set of 3 size 6s. When I do that, I'm going to share this middle one. So let me get this one over here. And I need to throw a needle on it really quick. Okay. I picked up 1 size 6. And I'm going to go through this middle one here. Oops, it jumped. There we go. And then pick up another size 16 bead and come back down through the star point that was next to go through. And there we go. Now it's connected. And so what you'll need to do is you'll need to finish up that second step where we join the top. So here's how that looks. You'll need another size 10, sorry, size 11. Size 11. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Got that? Through that star point there. Come through the next one. And through here. And so this is that same step again where we're just going to go through each of the 6s, add an 11. Go through the next one, add an 11. And then picking up that third bead, third size 11 seed bead that's exiting from the center 6s there. So you see as we go around and around, it just gets tighter and it pulls each of those into what looks like a little star point. Okay, 1, 2, there's the third one. And on the last step, this is kind of where I wasn't sure which looked better. So I was going to at least share the idea that you can skip adding an 11 here. So the next step for this stitch would be to put an 11, go through that 6, put an 11 and go through it. And that is what I've done on these. And you see how you've got the 11 side by side in between each one of those little joins. Normally you would just have one, right? But because we're sharing the 6 over here, you kind of have a choice. You can either, at this stage, you can add another one and go through, and then pick up another one and go through. Alternatively, you could share the size 11. You could have done that on the first add too. It's one of those things that I thought about later after I started making lots of these and had done the instructions. But, you know, play with it when you get to this step and see what you like more. You might like that look better, or you might like this one. And I'm thinking for this one, I like the single. And I've got one loose point here. So I need to go back through the next, let's see, I'm exiting from that 11. So go through that 6 and pick up this one here. Oops, here we go. And then up through that other arm. So at this point I could tie this one, tie some knots, or weave in. And that's one segment added. And I pre-made all the others, so I can show that combining it one more time. So yeah, we're doing well for time there. So I actually pre-made enough to do the whole necklace, so we'll see how it goes. Okay. So here's another one where what we had just done was we created those 2 layers and then we added a bunch of 6s, and then I stopped in my last spot. And I stopped there because I know I'm going to need to share one of the beads in another section, or sorry, on another star. So that's where this was made up into that point. And I'm going to pick up a 6. And so what I was talking about before, where you know for sure we have to share that size 6 bead, right, as the center one for this section. But alternatively, if you wanted, you could go through the 11 as well to make it look like that, or you can just go through the 6 and then add an extra set of 11s, which is what it says to do in the instructions. There's just some late learning that I've discovered that it looks great both ways, but this way saves you a step. So I've gone through the 11, the 6, and the 11. And so definitely just play with that and see which one you like. And in the handout, it'll show you going through, you know, just the 6, and that works just great too. Okay, I've picked up another size 6 bead and finding the little star point that we went through the beginning of that step, and there it is. And so in this case, I joined it symmetrically so that it would form a V here and here. And so same step here is to go around, adding those 11s in between each. There's another 11. And then finding the star point on the back. So that's this side. See how there's 2 layers? And the first layer caught this one. I'm catching this one. There we go. And go through the next 6. So just embellishing it around. And I liked adding the bead at this step because it makes the side petal kind of pop into a round shape too. So it has that added bonus. It looks really neat to see like a rounded shape next to a point with seed beads, because it's just a layer of dimension that you were able to create just from some round seed beads. If you think about how cool that it kind of is. It's really fun. And so there's the 3rd bead. Each time I'm just going through that 3rd bead. And there we go, got it. That's the 3rd one. All right, and now I'm at that connection again. So I'm going to go through the 6. I'm going to go through the 11, the 6, and the next 11. Through the 6. And here's the last loose point. 2, 3. I'm finding the 3rd bead. All right. And the same thing now, weave in or tie some knots in front of the those 11s. Okay, so let's see. I could show putting the next sections on. Seems like there's, yeah, we're pretty good for time. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I'm going to switch to so right about there. So I'm going to want to share this one. And so while you're building this, something to think about, I was going to show my bracelet really quick. There's the opportunity for asymmetry too. You don't have to make it, you know, symmetrical like that one. You can try something that's kind of offset from itself. Here's a bracelet that is completely asymmetrical and fun and just different. So there's just a lot of really cool things you can do now that you know how to connect these two. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up the, let's see, I need one more needle. I'm going to borrow one from over here. There we go. Okay. And so I'm going to join here, picking up one size 6 bead. And so I'm going to go ahead and go through all 3 of those just like I did before. But again, you have a choice here if you'd like. You could just go through the 6. So again, yeah, play with that and see with, you know, what looks best to your eye. And you'll know when you're looking at it up close, like I am, which one you like better. And so when I'm doing this next step, I've picked up a size 6. I wanted to also share a little tip. So I do go through the very first one that I was exiting. I go through that again just to tighten it up. And so I catch the top layer from here on out, but that first connection, I'm still going through that first layer. I wasn't sure if I explained that well on the first go around. So sharing that there. Now I've gone through the next 6, picked up an 11. I'm going to go through that next size 6 seed bead. Pick up another 11, go through the next one. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab the top layer now, counting up 1, 2, 3 to that third size 11 bead. Link it. And go through the next 6. So same thing here. That's what we did before. Finding the star point here. Third one. It's so quiet. Not a lot of questions today. I'm curious how many folks were with us for the first class, for the earrings class. There's that was the source of this idea. So I'm curious if anybody remembers when we first had that idea live here on Zoom. But it sparked a lot of creativity for me, so I'm really glad.
Danielle, it's Carmi. Definitely from the sidebar, a lot of people were there.
They
People
were.
have made sets of them. They've made them as presents and as gifts, earrings for themselves and for friends. So yes, quite a few people. And I am posting on the sidebar several times tonight a link to the original class.
Oh, good.
Want to see that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Grace made a necklace for a friend and she loved it.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Grace. Yeah, that was I enjoyed that class a lot. There was so much inspiration for me that day because I hadn't thought of this idea at that time. It just sparked there. And now I'm thinking, wow, it'd be neat to make an earring. Like, you know, you could put a long one with a chain like this on it. So many ideas. There's just so much you can do. And so I'm at the point now where I've left the, you know, the size 6 bead that we shared. I left that one and went through that last little ring that wasn't connected. And I'm coming through the size 6 again. But I might have actually skipped my, yeah, I skipped the bead I was supposed to go through. Supposed to go through that one. So that's something that can happen. Watch for which one you're exiting. There we go. Now I think I got it right. So how's everyone feeling about this connection? I could do that one more time. I have one more sample, or I could move on to starting the chain.
Danielle, my recommendation is to start the chain.
Start the chain? Okay.
That's really important, and we can always go back if there's time.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so here, I haven't been weaving in my extra threads because I've just been moving on. So I have lots to choose from, but often what you'll need to do is when you know you're creating your last flower or your last 2 flowers, you can cut more than 36 inches and leave a really long tail and use that tail to come up and become the chain, or you can just add thread, and either is a totally great option. In the case of what I have sitting in front of me, I'll have to add thread eventually, but I'll be able to start creating the band. So the first thing I want to do is weave up to the place where I want to put the band. On this design, we had 5 of the stars, and they it made sense to have the exit be 1 over from where it was last connected. I've only got 4 here, so I'm thinking a little bit about where I might want to put it. I still think right here, 1 over is going to be the best spot. The chain will come up like that. But something to think about when you're creating it, and also if you wanted some asymmetry, you can really put them on any point. So this connection that I'm about to show you will work no matter which 6 you choose to start it on. But I'm going to weave till I get to this one really quick. And it's a chance to reinforce this connection too, which is nice. Okay. And I'm there. I'm going to go through that center size 6 seed bead here at this point and pick up 4 more size 11s. So there's 4. And then go through just the 6. And what I like to do is, because this is going to be somewhat, somewhat weight bearing, it's a connection point, I go through it again just to make it stronger. There it is. So just a little tighter. I went through it twice. And then come up through 2 of the size 11s. And now we're going to build a wavy herringbone stitch segment. So it's made just by adding a new size, a set of size. In this case, my next will be a size 8, and then a 6, 8, and back down to an 11. And then you just keep adding, alternating in size, well, graduating. So graduating up and then back down for whatever length you like. So I'm going to need to bring in my 8s. I got those here. And I'm just going to start doing herringbone stitch now. So that's just picking up 2 beads. I'm exiting from this one. I'm going to go down through the next one. So like that. And pull down. And those 2 will sit on top of the former. Come up through the adjacent size 11. So that's this one here. And then also continue through that size 8 seed bead. All right, so there's step 1. Now I need some size 6 beads. And that looks cool with a different color. You can do this in a solid color. You can mix up your colors to become something graduated in color, like a, what's it called, ombre. So lots of fun stuff you could do here. Now I'm scaling down, going back to 8. Went through the 6, coming up through the 6 next to it. And now I need 2 of the little size 11s, just going through the 8. then turn and come up through the 8 and the 11. And with each ad here, you get a really nice look. It takes the, you know, the kind of offset, or what's the kind of bowed look of herringbone stitch in general. It makes it completely flat. So it'll just really, I don't know, it just has a neat look, I think. It doesn't have this, it's hard to tell that it's herringbone stitch because all the beads are, maybe you could call it square stitch in that case. Oh, and then 2 size 6s. And so all I have to do is just keep adding the next size up until I get to 6, and the next size down until I get to 11. And just keep building like that until you have a length that you like. And that's when you'll need, if optionally you can use seed beads, but I like to use wire guardians. And so you take a wire guardian, and I like to also, I end on an 11. And the reason I do that is because the size 8s are big enough for these wire guardians to fit inside. And so if you end with an 8, you have the chance that the wire guardian will actually go in the bead, and it'll be a little off-centered. So ending with an 11 for that reason. Same thing would happen if you ended with a 6. That wire guardian would slip, it would slip down into the bead. So, but what I want to do is just have that sit right there on the top. So I'm going through one side, and then come down through the other side, and just going through the 11. And a trick to get your thread to stay inside of the wire guardian is to pinch, just kind of pinch it like that, and then pull your thread. It'll make it stay right there in the well of the wire guardian. Okay, so now I'm going to turn and go through it again. I came down through that 11. I want to go up through the one that's next to it, go all through the wire guardian. I'm trying to do that at one step if it will let me. I think my wire guardian's a little bit tight. If you notice that you're having the same struggle getting the needle through, just use some pliers and go ahead and give a gentle tug. What's going to be tight is the wire guardian connection here. Here we go. And it helps if you try not to pierce the thread with it. And that's hard to do once you have the thread in there, but there you go. Just sometimes if you wiggle it around a little bit, it'll get it, it will sort itself out and it will stop piercing the thread that's inside. That's what causes it to be difficult to pull, is it's actually, you're trying to pull your needle through the thread itself. And keep in mind how strong and thick this thread is and how hard it is to pierce. So when you try to bring a double, something this size through it, that's where that resistance most of the time is coming from. It just happens a lot more on small beads. So people think the bead is too small, but it's actually that you're going through your thread. But so that helps just to use chain nose pliers and then kind of wiggle it. And I only reinforce that twice. You could go through it a third time. I feel like that's pretty good. Seems really strong. So now I'm just going to weave in. And to weave in, just kind of following that thread path, going up through a few beads, down through a few. The cool thing about this stitch is you can turn anywhere you want and then just turn again. And you can use this step to tighten up anything that might be a little bit loose in the chain. If you've got a spot where it's just, you know, a little less tight, you can weave down to it. Mine's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and trim. All right. And so then you would just maybe take like your findings pack, and you could attach a lobster claw to one side, create a chain for the other side. So many ideas of things that work really great for that. We're good on time. Does anyone need to see starting this again? Or any other part of the class?
Danielle, I think the chain is well understood, and I have put a link to the original class you did for the Wavy bracelet class. So I've put that up if they want to see a longer class with that stitch. I think the biggest curiosity people have is attaching the flowers, whether you do it asymmetrically or side by side.
Yeah, I still have another flower.
So
ready to go.
They could put these flowers in a straight line if they wanted.
Almost, yeah. So it's interesting. So because it has a center point, let me show you guys what I mean. I've got a tangle here, but each of these little segments, there's only 5 of them. So what will happen is you have a center point for one, and then you're in a between point for the bottom, which was great when we wanted to be an earring because we used that. But when you want it to go in a straight line, like for example, for a bracelet, it's harder to get it to do that because you can do it one time and then every subsequent one is going to need to be on a point. So if I wanted to add, for example, this new flower to this one that's currently in a straight line, I could only put it here or I could put it here. So 2 ideas come to mind. If you love the idea of a straight line, try a star that starts with 6 beads instead of 5. So what I mean is at the beginning when we made the first star and we did a 6 and an 11, a 6 and 11, when we did that, add 1 more. And I think that would make it possible to go in a straight line. We need 1 more. And then it would just be the same process the whole way, building your star, but instead of 5 points in the center, you'd have 6. And you would have a top and a bottom that were both points. So hopefully that answers the question a little bit. Or if you're just loving the 5 stars, so the 5-pointed star here, you can just keep going. Like for example, this bracelet would have also worked if, for example, if I'd put another star like that and then built my chain here, we'll just have a little dip like that. But yeah, I mean, just a lot of things that can be done. I think there's just enough potential to play with just this design, but it'll get your ideas going. And then if you wanted to add on to it, here's one that's easier to see. You could try putting another set of points on these outer ones, make it bigger. So 2 ways you could increase the size of this star. Start with more or keep adding on.
Great idea.
They're still pretty good on time. I could show, let's see. Start putting this one on. I could show starting the star again if anybody was stuck on that. You could keep going with that too. But we do have the original class for that, so that I keep forgetting we've done this before. But yeah, so this one wasn't finished yet. This is the sample we were just working on. I have 1 more I could add. And I could put it anywhere. So just kind of, that might be really cute. So look, can you imagine like if I built the chain over here, you'd have asymmetrical display there. It's fun. Sometimes I think I just need to see it before I know if I like it or not. I don't know if you guys are like that too when you design. But for me, I do need to see it. I get this idea, I sketch it. I can even visualize sometimes how to put it together. But until I make one and look at it, I don't know if I like it or not. And then, you can always take it apart and start over. But right now that seems really cool. But yeah, I'm going to stick to the original here. Go through those. Yeah, just joining it. But it seems like everybody pretty much got that. Keep going if anyone wants to see it again, but you would just add 11, go through the 6, 11, go through the 6, pick up the points. And do that all the way around. And let's see. Well, you know what? It's about 9 minutes, but we could take our time looking at the projects that are coming up. Unless anyone has any more questions before I move this.
I think you're good, Danielle.
Good. Okay.
I'm putting a link to the 2 other classes, which is great.
Awesome. I feel like I sped through that a little bit, but there's already really good step-by-steps for both of those in those other 2, and then this is just a really fun add-on for it. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to show you guys I believe our next class is floral dusters, and these are really cool. They're made with an even count herringbone stitch. The ones I'm holding up were made with size 11 seed beads, and you could use 10s. In fact, you could use any beads that you'd like with this. Delicas might be very gorgeous. So the stitch will work with any of those beads. And we'll do a pattern. We'll cover how to follow a pattern in this class. But if you're a beginner and you just want to check it out and you want to try it, you could also color block it. And I'll talk about that during that class. And then the week after that is this really cool tulip chain. And the thing about this chain is that it can be a dainty bracelet. It could also be like a choker necklace. There's a lot of possibility. I had another thought of stitching it onto leather or suede to be kind of like, you know, it would be into the suede, like on top of it. And you could even embellish it with stones and, you know, have some kind of riveting for the leather to close. So I have a lot of dreams for this one. This is definitely a work in progress, but in class, the one after next, we'll cover up just how to make this. Okay, and then last but not least, got the super duos are coming back. So this is a sunburst, kind of like almost like a little half sun or a crescent. You could do a crescent moon, but we're going to cover how to make this. And then if there's time, we'll cover how to make a chain, but the class sample has a connection to a store-bought chain here, and it was done in copper. This one is just me kind of playing with, well, how can I do a really fun beaded chain? That is in the handout, the way I made this, and hopefully we'll be able to cover that at the end of that class. And so March 26th, I think it is the observed spring break. So we don't have a class that day, but the following Friday we do. And I think, I don't know, I can't remember which one that one is, so I'll have to announce that one then. But yeah, so yeah, floral dusters, tulips, and then the starburst pendant. And if anyone has any questions about that, otherwise I'll sign off and wish you guys a really great Friday night. And thank you so much for being here. I enjoy getting to create with you guys, so I appreciate it. All right, well, you guys have a great night. Thank you.